Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. This is John with Tommy's Top Picks here to bring you, well, some more of that hype train from yesterday. I couldn't bear to wait. My day's pretty busy, and honestly, I'm pretty excited about this stuff, and I have time to do it now, so I'm going to do it. We're going to dive in a little bit to some of the assumptions and conclusions you can draw based on the information we have from these Icelander cards. Pretty exciting stuff, if you ask me. There's quite a bit you can derive from the information presented that does give us an idea on what we can expect in the coming set. Doesn't tell us everything, obviously, but it is something that gives us some ideas. And frankly, I am not the best when it comes to lore. I have made multiple mistakes in the lore stuff and department before, so I'm not sure how much I can add to a conversation about this. I prefer to do the analysis stuff, so that's what I'm going to stick to. So let's go ahead and jump into it and see what we can figure out. Most of this is derived based on the card numbers that were revealed, and then, of course, the talent slash type, card type. So first things we can start to look at. Draconic Action is number 86 as a result of this, and Icelander being 182. You only have this many slots for Draconic stuff. And that means, typically speaking, you would see, you see Elemental and Elemental Wizard. You would maybe see Draconic Wizard, Draconic Warrior, whatever it is, right, in this area as well. I don't think that's the case here. They might be doing the Draconic or the single talent after the fact. I believe, if anyone remembers from Monarch, they did that with Monarch as well. I think or maybe it was Tails they did it with. Obviously, anything we come up with here today is purely speculation. LSS has the right to do it in whatever frickin' order they want. This is just kind of basing it on what we've known before. I could very easily get this wrong, so don't take any of it as a absolute truth. Take it with a grain of salt. Enjoy the speculation, have fun wondering what we're about to see and puzzling it out. But don't take it beyond that. Don't get angry if it doesn't meet your expectations when the time comes. But that said, Draconic Actions may be at the end of the Draconic area, so you might have your Draconic Warrior, your Draconic Wizard, whatever it is, right? The classes above, and then Draconic Actions are at the end. Kind of fits because you have ice actions at the end with the Ice Wizard. So it does make sense to a degree. Now, what can we derive with this many slots from here? Well, one, I think there's going to be some level of equipment. It may be rare instead, so that would push some of these down. There may be more rare slots, like this could be rare, because I feel like there's usually at least 2 rare cycles, right? Specializations in here as well. That's something to note. It throws the numbers off a little bit. Note there's 2 kind of at the end. There's 2 extras if you go by sets of 3, right? And so that means a specialization would help fill that in, and we do get that down with the elemental or ice specialization for Icelander. It throws it off by 1 because there's only 1 under Elemental Wizard, but you get the idea. That specialization is a single slot. There's not going to be a cycle of 3 of them, so that you can kind of figure out what that looks like, which then means we probably have a few equipment slots here just to get an idea of what it looks like. So Majestics are first, obviously, then Rares follow. Equipments lead, typically before the Majestic even happens. I don't know if that's true if there's like a rare versus a majestic. I think all equipment happens at the beginning of the set. Again, correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, if there's sets where it's like, it has the rare or the majestic equipment, majestic cards, and rare equipment and rare cards. I'm pretty sure all the equipment comes at the beginning. So that would probably be up here in the beginning before this thaw. Also worth noting, thaw is a T in their alphabetical order usually, so A to T is, potentially before this. So we could have a couple Majestics before it, and then the equipment up here. Something to think about as well. Obviously, the specialization is something worth considering. For Icelander, there is a rare specialization, so it could be down here, right? And then you have your commons, which you'll have a cycle of 3 for commons. That's something that we always see, right? All right, let's go into Icelander and what we can see from there. Elemental Wizard obviously comes in this order based on what we know. We're assuming the commons have 3 of a kind. Gives us about 22 cards for Elemental Wizard because we jump right into Ice Wizard and we do have kind of a time or a slot for that. Assuming there's at least 1 equipment that's ice equipment. Now, if there isn't, then it's like 23 cards, but then that throws off the 3 cycles, right? And it gets a little confusing. So I think this is right, 22 cards for Elemental Wizard, and that sounds about right based on previous sets, 22 to 27 typically per class type thing. So that's worth thinking about as a Elemental Wizard type class situation. Also means ice cards are something that will be an interesting thing when it comes to the fuses, because she clearly wants to fuse a lot. It does give her a lot of advantage with the cards that we've seen so far. So you got to balance that out and what that will look like, especially if you're thinking about draft, because it's a draftable set, right? So you gotta balance your ice versus your fuse cards, and you want to make sure you get the right ratio, because if you go too far one way, you won't have the power and the hand ratios you need. So moving on, here's another one of the specializations. This one is a majestic. So she's got one majestic specialization, one rare specialization. We can hope that this is repeated with each of the classes, one in the element, or I guess the talent, which would be the draconic equivalent, right? It would probably be up here, right here. It would be draconic whatever. And then the second would be in the actual elemental wizard. So that would be, gosh, I don't even know what they'd call it, right? What is a pre-derived draconic? So if you have a draconic wizard, ice wizard, right? What do they call that? Royal wizard or something? Just like, they have to have a name for it, right? It wouldn't be draconic wizard, because draconic wizard would be the equivalent of ice wizard, right? So what's an elemental wizard equivalent for draconic? That's very curious. And maybe it's not a wizard. Maybe this is all brute. And actually, if you look at Thaw, let's go back to it real quick. It does look like a brute card, right? It has a 6 attack. This has no reason to be in a Kano deck. This looks like a brute card to me. So if we think about it, and alphabetically, we could have a brute above this, right? So it could be brute. Maybe they call it dragon brute. I don't know. And then draconic brute cards, and then draconic actions. That would pretty much fit, right? So that could be what's up above for this whole set, and everything else is after, right? There's no other class before the elemental wizard, because the elemental wizard, being E, will come second. Wow, this is pretty interesting. And then ice is piled up after, which is just like it was in, I think, both Tails and Monarch for that. So you have the ice and class, or talent and class next, and then just the talent cards at the end. Interestingly, we have a lot of just straight ice. This part I did not expect, because I believe in Monarch and in Tails, the pure elements were pretty sparse. There weren't that many, unless this is exactly where it cuts off right here. That would be about right. But looking at this, we got about this many cards. Again, the equipment's a question mark. We don't know if we have an ice equipment, ice wizard equipment. So it could vary by 1 or 2, give or take. And then you come down here and we just have to here. That's all we know. So this is where it's at so far, just based on the numbers. Very interesting pool of cards. It does give you a good idea of what we'll see. Plenty of cards for Ice Wizard. In total, it looks like it's about 50 cards that are Ice Wizard friendly. Obviously, not all of them will work for her, because there'll be stuff for, well, assuming it's both Ice and Draconic are the 2 elements. We don't know that for a fact, though. In fact, it could be a 3-element set again. It could be a 4-element set, or talent set again. We really don't know. And based on the numbers and where they line up, it is very reasonable to say that it may be 4 talents. It's not impossible to say that. Or maybe it's non-talent, right? So you have 2 non-talent heroes and then 2 talented heroes, something like that. That is very possible based on what we're looking at so far. So interesting stuff. Definitely intrigued to see what comes out next. This one just threw us for a whole loop with that 6 attack. Wow. And because of the alphabetical order, a Draconic Wizard should come before, and there's just not enough room. It doesn't look like it, right? She's got about 50 cards, and we're at like 86 here, so I don't know. You'd have to sneak it in somehow, and that would make draft weird, I think. But, it remains to be seen. I look forward to getting more information. I do look forward to reading the stories. I just won't report on them. I'll leave that to more lore-centric people who are very good at that stuff and know way more about the other background stories than I do. So, anyways, I hope you enjoy the content. Let me know if I got anything wrong or if there's anything you could speculate on based on this information that I missed, because there's definitely more to look at. Oh, I will say one thing that's interesting. I looked at the art, right? We've seen in the art in the past has been helpful for guiding things. Here is a Draconic Brute, KO. He's got some sort of dragon claw on his hand, and he's fighting a dragon, and it's got that dustiness that we see in a lot of the Kasai art. So this very much feels like Volcor. So KO may be a brute, a Draconic Brute, although to be Drakai, you have to be part of the royal lineage or royal line. I don't know if brutes count in that regard. Now, it's kind of unclear. The story does, and again, I'm not a lore expert. It does say that, anyone that resides in the house of, so maybe he's like a hired hand sort of brute. I don't know. It's one possibility. I did go through all the other brute cards. There's no other indication of a presence in Volcor. This is the closest one, right? And interestingly, I went through all the art I could find, literally all the cards, to see what Volcor-like art there is, because you know how historic art has sometimes informed future sets, and there just wasn't much besides Kano being the primary one. And not all those wizards are actually Valkorian wizards. Some of the lightning ones look very different. So it's worth looking at the art, going through it, and seeing what you can see. There are a few exceptions. They are generally on the generics, but here's one that isn't. Seismic Stir. Could we have a Guardian? A Drakai Guardian or something? Maybe. This kind of looks like a Volcor style thing going on here. So there might be a Guardian in the set. Not sure. I don't know how that would fit. I'm not buying it personally, but it's just worth talking about because I know some people have said that might be true, and I don't know. And then the last one to look at is this guy looks very Drakai, right? This looks like he's in Volcor. So is it some sort of commander dude, commanding armies, etc. So there's a few other generics that have Volcor looking or Drakai looking warriors in them, but they're generic, so they don't tell us anything about what class it could be, right? So that's why I left them off. But interesting to look through the art. That could give us some hints as we go forward and see more. Obviously, there's a lot of new stuff in elements and whatever else going on, so there's a lot more to find out and discover. So anyways, I hope you're enjoying this so far. I know I am. I'm super hyped. I love this stuff. Leave a comment. Let me know if I screwed it up or if you see something that I missed. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you like the content. All right, I will talk to you later. Have a good one.